So here's what I want you guys to think about. Think of somebody that you have watched accomplish something that was so out there that people thought they were crazy. And the reason that I'm sharing that is, have you ever thought, why when I watch The Last Dance, why do those things inspire me? Why do they prick something in my heart? Why do they basically like affect my life? Have you ever asked yourself that? Because I guarantee that if you're a human being and you've consumed any amount of anything, or you know any people, there's people in your life that have done things like that, and it's probably inspired the living shit out of you. And if it hasn't, there's probably something wrong with you. On the flip side, I want you to think about that specific person and what they accomplished and how that made you feel. And I want you to think about the exact opposite. Think about a time where you watched that exact same thing happen and somebody accomplished something, and instead of inspiring you, it pissed you off, but not in a good way. It negatively affected you in the sense that it made you envy that person. It didn't inspire you, but it just pissed you off. And you see the smile. You see the exhausted look on their face, but you know that they earned that exhausted look, and you know what that feels like because you've done it to an extent. But if you ever stop and think like, why did that make me mad? Most likely the reason that happened is because you saw something in yourself that you weren't doing at that current time. The reason why you get inspired by things like watching Michael Jordan win 7 championships, watching Kobe win his championships after all the shit that he went through, the reason why that inspired you guys is because at some point in our lives, whether it was big or small, we have all, to some extent, experienced a portion of that. That's why it affected you. That's why it touched you. On the flip side, if you've ever felt the opposite and you felt that negative vibe, that negative feeling towards somebody that accomplished it, it's because of the exact same reason. You've experienced what it feels like. You know that feeling when you did something you never thought you could do and you did it and you are exhausted, but you had that smirk on your face because you're like, that was freaking hard, but I did it. You're looking at that person and they did it and you're jealous of that feeling because you didn't do it. So that's why you guys can relate to those experiences. And I've had them both happen to me, just so you guys know. I know that when I watched my buddy get the Aventador, I was jacked out of my mind. And I can honestly say that. Like, I've never been like, oh, he's this or that, or he doesn't deserve it, or he got lucky. No. What I've realized is it's because at that point in my life, I'm off. At that point in my life, I'm not doing the things that are going to get me that experience, that feeling, that moment that person just earned. So, what the hell does this have to do with lead gen? 2 years ago, I sat down in this exact desk and I took a pen just like this, and I took a notepad just like this. And at the top of this thing, I tried to figure out like, what is it that I really want out of life? Because I always say I want money, I want to make $1 million a month, I want to do this thing or that thing. And if you can answer the question of like, what do you want out of life? That's the most powerful thing you can answer. And I filled up pages and pages and pages of one of these things. At the end of that exercise, I found out that the reason I want to make $1 million a month is not because it's $1 million a month. That number is completely arbitrary. But when I boil it down to why do I want that, what I've discovered is that what I want out of life and what I want to spend the rest of my life doing is I want to spend the rest of my life creating the moments that I just described. You guys have to know what I'm talking about because you're a human being. You know the time when you set the goal that you never thought you could achieve. A couple that I've experienced is when I set a goal to hit $10,000 in a month doing this exact process. And I thought it was the most craziest goal ever because up to that point, the most I'd ever done is 1,000, maybe 2,000. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and immediately next month, I'm going to 6X what I did like in my biggest month ever in new business. And I hit it. And I remember that feeling, that moment of doing something so ridiculously challenging that is so rewarding. The only way I can describe it is exhausted, but satisfied. And I've had multiple moments, probably 5 to 6 in my entire 31 years of being alive when I've experienced these moments. And they are the only things that matter. I don't remember $81,000 I made my first summer selling home security systems. That money is so long gone. It's been gone for years and years and years. I probably don't have anything that I purchased with that money with me still. However, the feeling that I felt when I got in the car, I knocked my last door, I sold my last deal, and I drove home, and I looked out the window and I had a 20-hour drive, and it was the best drive of my entire life because I could sit there for 20 hours and literally think about all the times that I got sick, all the times that I knocked on the door and the person freaking screamed the F word at me, all the times that I really didn't want to do it and I did it, all the times that people like, yo, that goal is ridiculous, you're never gonna hit it. And making that money, it wasn't the money, it was the feeling and the moment that I felt at the end. And I was so damn tired. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done up to that point in my life, and I did it. So those are the moments. It's the same exact feeling that I felt after I lived in Africa for 2 years, and I literally didn't have a cell phone, I didn't have anything, and I literally worked. What I'm getting at is I realized that for me, the only thing that I care about, the only thing that I'm chasing out of life right now, and unless something else comes up that I feel like is more worthy and more worthwhile, is I'm going to spend the rest of my existence chasing those moments.